It is 5:30. I'm going to call today's meeting of the Housing Task Force together. Call it to order, sorry. Thank you all for joining us tonight. I just wanted to briefly touch on sort of the meeting as, yes, I hit record.
Yeah, which one is that?
The three buttons and then record.
Recording in progress.
I'll now call the meeting to order. So thank you everyone again for coming tonight. What I'd like to do first is just a basic introduction of why we're here for tonight. We are reviewing we've received 3 proposals for the Airport Road parcel. Our job as a housing task force, as given the task by the select board, is to review the proposals and make a recommendation to the select board to on how to move forward. We've had 3 meetings prior to this, 1 meeting for each of the 3 proposals. And tonight will be the culmination of that as we discuss the merits, how we want to move forward, where everyone sits in terms of their direction for these proposals. I would like to acknowledge that today actually marks the year since we met the first time, this exact board. We've been at this for a year, so it's interesting that now here we are at the anniversary that we are now discussing what is could be a very vital part of our future for the town. So again, the goal tonight is to have a comparative discussion on these proposals, pros and cons, and outlining a clear path forward. I do see members of some of the folks who've made the proposals here tonight, as well as online. We will certainly keep this discussion going. And I think the first place I'd like to start, you asked about name tags. We don't have name tags, so I will go down and just give everyone's name. Tim Waker is on chair of the Development Review Board. John Watanabe is a member of the DRB as well as the chair of the DAB. John Burnham, who is John number 2. John is the executive director of the Manchester Business Association. My name is Jonathan West. I'm the chair and I'm a member of the select board. Joanne O'Connor is an advocate for green building and the environment, as many other things as well.
And she's our secretary.
And then Cindy Luce is executive director of the Bennington County Habitat for Humanity. And Leon Ward, who will be here, is a member of the Planning Commission. And that makes up the prescribed order of this group, that we have a member of all the major boards plus community involvement through the members you see here tonight. So as we discussed, we saw 3 proposals, and they vary from size of project, amount of potential units, size of phasing, timelines. And I think what would probably be the best thing that we could do is to look at if there are any things that we see that we absolutely can either cross off or all agree on. I know that's a big thing. We need housing. We'll agree on that first one.
True.
I think I've had a conversation with each of you, and the discussion was fairly similar on all accounts. And that is understanding the size of the project, the number of units. And we know that from our data that a 6-year target for the town of Manchester is 200 units, made up of varying quantity, different types of housing. So let's talk about the 3 proposals, and the size of the projects. If anyone wants to chime in about what they feel about the difference between the 3 in terms of the size.
I'm happy. I think at the start, unfortunately, I mean, DEW did not provide an average or a number total, whereas both Brent and the airport group did go ahead and provide at least what an approximate number of units look like. But even with that, if I were to kind of back out the numbers, Brent is talking about 40 units, which at a minimum of the 20% level equate to about 400 units. So if they were to build at the minimum amount to qualify for workforce housing under development, it would equate to about 400 units that they would end up building to qualify for the 40 units, if you get my drift.
Qualify for what? What are you talking about?
For development, and look for waivers, you kind of would look for what is the qualification, and 20% is the qualifying number typically. So when I kind of do that math, in my mind, the 40 units that Brent proposes equates out to about 400 units in total. Because they would be given 20% allocation for a waiver.
Waiver of, you mean, you're talking about
Development.
environment.
Development.
So one of the challenges I think that this brings up is that, Joanne, you and I have discussed this with the state PCRC. A lot of the exemptions that are currently in play for the Home Act, which allows for a circumvention of Act 250 based on certain guidelines, if you're within a certain region of, like from the village center or from the, town center or the neighborhood development districts. The challenge with this particular property is that it is too far away from all of those. So the basic understanding is that this will be subject to Act 250. So the question is whether or not those benefits would still even be in play. I mean, because there's not just the development price, there's also criteria for exemption for certain types. And that's not going to be available for this in the first place.
Is that what we got from that? I thought it was just delayed.
No, it was, so what we asked was whether or not that the airport road property was close enough to meet the criteria for the exemptions. And the answer was no,
Not for the October deadline,
not for the October deadline. Right.
but possibly.
It could be in the future,
next-
yes, in the next batch. However, the only thing that we could do is bring that boundary up to the adjacent property and hope that the state in its redrawing of maps includes an expansion of the buffer, which would then include the airport road property. But that's putting us out another year or more before any of that even happens. So DEW came to us with a pretty open-ended conversation, I think, about the number of units. I do think that they came to us with a,
Quite vague.
yeah,
I'm just going to interrupt you, sorry, but it's very vague.
yes.
And it's hard to get your brain around, like, the unknowns. You don't know you know, if they're selected, you don't know all of their, like, they could do, you know, say this and then say, oh, no, it actually is gonna be this. It just feels like way too much unknown in that proposal to me.
This one.
No,
No, DEW.
DEW.
Anyone else along the same lines? or-
I would just say that, you know, from what they presented, I got a sense that they had a vision in mind about how many units they would have, both from apartments to residential, triplexes, duplexes. They didn't give an exact number, but I think they had a pretty good idea of what they could do for the 20 acres. I think their whole due diligence, as it is with some of the others, is to determine, you know, what is this all gonna pan out to be in the end? And in understanding the cost, because of course, if they're gonna commit a certain amount of those units, whether it be apartments or residential properties that are for purchase, what are gonna be in that missing middle or lower income bracket? The one thing that, you know, I looked at DEW and said, well, you know, obviously they have lots of experience in building lots of big projects across across New England, both residential and commercial. And they've also, you know, tied in with Cornerstone and have worked with them, and whether that's gonna help or hinder this project, I don't know, but that's why I thought it was a good proposal. It's just, I understood why they couldn't come in and say, well, this is exactly what we're gonna do. And we need to use this. The thing that really caused me the greatest concern was 18 months of due diligence for them to turn around and come back and say, yeah, we're not interested because it's just not penciling out. And then we're back to square one 18 months later. And then I figure a shorter term, like one of the other proposals that gave at least 12-month due diligence, was something they needed to meet before we'd even consider them as a prospect, in my opinion.
And we as a town have already been in situations where we've given an 18-month due diligence, and then it turns out that it doesn't pan out, right?
I mean, Act 250, I mean, that's because this project does have to go through Act 250 at this current time. You're probably a year out anyways, I would guess, or more. I mean, to get it to, if you started today, you'd probably be a year from now. My guess is to get a permit. I'm never gone for Act 250 permit, but from what I hear, it's quite a process. Or am I wrong? I probably know more about than I do being on the.
Well, and there's also, I mean, there are also pieces that need to be taken into account that we are in a transitional phase right now, right? The board was just established for the new Act 250 bylaws. Like, how are they going to operate over the next year? That's certainly in question.
In the process of doing two duplexes, I'm looking at approximately an 18-month 250 timeline. So, I mean, it's definitely more than 12 months.
So at minimum, so say a project that was 12 months to 18 months out, that's a due diligence. That's before
They even apply.
they even potentially apply for a permit. We're looking at, 2 to 4 years out for these developments. That's interesting.
I mean, I know and even for the infrastructure on the property, I don't know exactly what it would be to run up Airport Road, water and sewer. But it's got to be a sizable amount. Couple $1 million possibly. I'm not, that would be a guess. I know we had talked about possibly crossing the airport with water and sewer that's up in that area on the flat now. But they really didn't want houses out on the flat area out there, which is probably the most economical place to build, 'cause it's all flat. You just go out and go. I think Paul's and Brent's proposals were probably the better of the two. I like the fact that it's, I know Brent was 100% affordable. Every single, it was 100% affordable, nothing else, which good or bad, you know, I don't know.
But again, just to kind of emphasis on that, that was with the understanding that he was crossing lands.
That's correct. And
Crossing neighbors' lanes.
to get to that price,
The other thing I struggled with at Tim, and I apologize, I was on Zoom and having some issues, but one of the things I struggled with their proposal though is them saying that they can actually build a 3-bedroom house. So he was saying 3 or 4-bedroom houses, those were, right? 800 to 1,000 square feet, am I right?
2 to 3.
I think it was 2 or 3 bedroom.
3, okay, that's what I just want to make sure it was, okay. But still, a 3-bedroom house in 1,000 square feet is really tight.
But that's affordable. And I'm just saying that because my,
We do,
Yeah.
Habitat does our 1,000 square foot, our 2-bedroom houses with a, utility room, a bathroom and a half, and the kitchen, living room. It's just tight. And I know we're trying to be affordable. I understand we're trying to be affordable, but you also don't want to be making these look like, I don't know the right word, but like little cookie cutters. You don't want them so like packed in that people are going to, it's just going to be not,
Yeah, yeah.
comfortable. And then because then you're in a neighborhood, when you're packing people in too much in tiny spaces, then they're just going to start having stuff outside. And the neighborhoods are going to look trashy. I don't mean to
So
be.
what do you talk, what's your thoughts for square footage then?
So I would think you should go 1,000 to 1,200 at the, so 1,000 is for a 2-bedroom and 1,200 would be for a 3-bedroom. And those are still tight. You're welcome to all go down to Greenview Drive in Bennington, and tour the house on 26 Greenview Drive. It's 1,000 square foot, 2-bedroom house, and it's tight. There's like no room for storage. There's nothing. There's no basement. They're on slabs.
Slabs. huh?
Yeah, they're on slabs, and they have like a little storage shed is what we give them.
What's the 1,200, what's the square foot price on a 1,200 square foot house?
So our 1,200 square foot, like the last one we did up here in Jennifer Lane, we're at about 255. But that's because we can use volunteer labor, that's the developer's price,
But the developer prices were all 350, 375.
Mhm.
And the modular prices, I think, I can't remember the exact, was it 150, 170, 150, 160? Can't remember.
So when we calculate out the building structure, like the actual structure costs, I think it was between 150 and 180 per square. But, then because when I asked the question, we factored in, well, the asking price is going to be X. What's the difference? And that was infrastructure.
Infrastructure and the
I
money.
believe it was like 80 to 90,000 for infrastructure.
Mhm.
And do your Habitat houses include infrastructure or no? No.
Yeah.
But the road was there and the road is there and the water and sewer is there.
Well, yeah, yep. In Bennington, in Jennifer Lane, we put the roads there
Right.
and the water.
Oh, yeah.
And that's part of our price, that's part of the land price. But my concern is just, I would encourage whatever developer is going to do this is not to be making them so small that they're living on top of each other, Comfort has to be considered.
Didn't we also say that we're looking for studios, 1 and 2 bedrooms?
It's a
Smaller?
mix. I think we need to be mixed.
It needs to be a mix and not all of, 2 and 3, because there is a need for the smaller houses, studios and such. So I don't know if people are amenable to changing the makeup of these fixed use.
I think the number for Brent's plan was a fluctuation. Anyway, I mean, it was a target, right? It's not saying we're gonna build 43 homes.
right.
It is a range between, 0 to 50. All right, so
I was just gonna
Yeah.
add something really quick to this conversation about the one thing that from I think it's needed in our community, especially from the workforce side of things. When you talk about employers trying to bring people here, is apartments. I mean, rental apartments, people who are moving here to work here may or may not be able to keep their job, right? We don't, like, for those who move for a job, you know, there's that uncertainty, and you don't necessarily want to invest in buying a home, even if we have a home shortage as it is, but to buy a home, being able to rent a place for a year or two, just to find out if it's all going to be the right place for you is essential, and we just don't even have that. So I put a priority as the MBA for our members and our businesses on apartments more than I do homes right now. And Herman didn't address that at all. They just addressed single-family homes.
Mhm.
And not to say that those aren't important, I just feel like a priority should be put on people that are willing to do both. Get the apartments up and then work on the residential component of single-family homes or duplexes or triplexes or that sort of stuff. So that's just what I.
Mhm.
But as far as an apartment though, I think you're gonna be more per square foot to build an apartment complex. Because there's a lot more permits, you know, if it's a single family house. As far as the state's concerned, there's a lot less you have to go through than if it's a multi-family house as far as.
Right. For me, and I'm just gonna say this, that's up to the developers to figure out, you know, they're putting proposals in front of us to say, we can make this happen, we can build these units, we can make 20% of them affordable or workforce missing middle housing. That's not my area of expertise, that's theirs.
Yeah, we certainly don't want to get into a situation though, where if we do work with a particular developer with an expectation that they can accomplish it, and then we find out later they can't. You know, we have to have some sort of connection along this process to work collaboratively to make sure that it's headed in the correct direction.
I mean, you could build apartments that, as a developer, I'm sure if you build an apartment building, you have to figure the cost of the building, how much you're gonna charge rent to pay for the building, because I don't think anybody's just gonna do it for free. So the more it costs to build it, the more your rent's gonna be. And if your rent's $2,500, $2,700 a month, then I don't think that's a good number for the workforce people. I mean,
Totally agree with you, but that's not what the proposals were from, again, DEW didn't give a number perhaps, but they did say that they could commit a certain amount of a 40-unit apartment building to workforce housing rent. Because the market rate they're going to charge on the other units should help make up for whatever sacrifices are made on, or discounts, whatever you want to call it, on the other units. Same thing with the other group that proposed having 20% of it dedicated to workforce housing. They're looking at, I'm assuming they're looking at the same factor. However, it pencils out, they're just going to have to charge more on the market end apartments to give us 20% of them as workforce housing.
Yeah, and keep in mind, when I gave the statistic, when we did the math, right? We said, this is the range for a family of four. You know, the affordability factor is, you know, for a family of four was, I think we said 2,200 was for a family of four. Like right in that ballpark. Not to say that everyone can afford that as a family of four. We know not everyone can afford that as a family of four. I think as a family of four right now, in anywhere in town, you'd be looking at over $3,000 for a family of four. So I do think that
I think it's important that, I agree with John Burnham, that we have a mix of what's there. You can't have just all single family homes, you know? I think you have to have the mix. I think you also have to have not only the mix of apartments and single family, but you also have to have a mix of affordable single family and market families, you know, as well, a little bit of that. I mean, you gotta have, because if you have a nice diverse neighborhood, then you're gonna have more of a cohesive, you know, gelling in my opinion.
So.
One thing that I picked up in the course of all of it is, I didn't realize how much the town will be involved indefinitely in the process by virtue of the association. You know, in all cases, we are being brought into the association, and in that light, the town itself is somehow going to be involved indefinitely. I mean, I don't know if that was the thought and the intent when we got into this. I guess I didn't really think of that too much, but as I heard everybody speaking, these associations and knowing them pretty well, I mean, they're eternal.
And I think you and I talked about this in particular, that, I've been told as a select board member many times that the town is not in the real estate business. But at the same, if you flip that coin, we also don't want other people, like, we want to have our say. We want to be able to control the direction that things are going. We want to be able to say, we don't really want that. How can we work on doing this? We don't have enough workforce housing. How can we focus on getting this? We need more apartments versus single family homes, or we need duplexes and triplexes, or whatever it is. I think one of the plans in particular had a kind of culminated all of those items with a clear point that the town would have a unique cooperative role in the direction that each step would take, so that the folks who are saying, well, how are we going to control the people that are going to live in these homes? Or how are we going to focus on this group or that group or whomever? That is potentially taken a little bit out of the equation, because the town will be involved. It's not just a blank ticket or, a blank check to someone to say, here, go do whatever you want. Because we're holding the property, right? The land underneath them. But I hear you, is that we need to be very proactive in our involvement. I think someone asked the question, like, who is going to be the group that we're going to work with beyond? I mean, one, we haven't got there yet, but two, it's probably going to be some of us that are sitting right here. Hopefully all of us. You've got someone joining, John. I don't want to, I mean, I know that this is not an easy decision. There's a lot of things to take into account. But is there a plan at this point that we can say we don't want to consider of the three? Yes, no?
This one here. I don't think we could consider that one.
Okay, so Joanne is saying Herman's plan. Is there anyone else? I'm just
To
thinking,
eliminate,
yeah, if we were to help us pull it a little bit,
narrow it down,
What did you say, John?
to help us,
Narrow
to
in.
narrow,
narrow it down.
I'm trying to turn my head as much as
No,
possible.
that's fine. I wasn't hearing him. Sorry.
I mean, it doesn't sound like, I mean, Joanne made a suggestion on the Herman plan. I'm not hearing anyone else. So,
Saying that Joanna would go, not that it's not a good plan, it's just not, I think, the one that we need to focus.
okay. Is there anything we're missing? I know it's a very open-ended
Well,
question.
What did you
What do
say?
you mean by that?
Is there anything that we are missing to help us make this decision?
Well, in my mind, as you know, is the renewable energy. And none of these, with the exception of the Integrated Manchester Housing Initiative, which is open-ended in terms of what they will work with us about putting in renewables. I mean, New York has a mandate right now that anything new anything new that's developed has to have renewable energy. So it only makes sense. All the other states will likely be doing the same. And we have to sort of be a model in that regard, I think, and sort of insist that we build these houses with renewable energy.
So I hear you. I know we need that. But I come from the side that of the dollars and affordability. So, we as an organization have been trying to do that, but we also know we're very lucky to be able to do that because of the partners we have. If a developer comes to the table and you're insisting, I don't think we can say it has to be 100% of renewable energy, or sustainable. I think we have to have some flexibility in there because of the costs. Because it's just so, expensive still. And plus with solar, well, it depends
Coming
on,
down, it's
Well,
certainly coming down costs.
but the solar panels aren't, a lot of them actually, from what I'm hearing, availability is not, it's an issue right now because of all of because of
The tariff.
tariffs,
Yeah. Well, I know,
So,
all of those
but
things that we're ignoring.
Right.
That are coming into the play here.
But what I'm saying is, I think one of the things, Jonathan, you and I were talking about was listing out some of the kind of expectations, some parameters that maybe we would love to see as part of this deal, and some of it would be some renewable energy. Not 100% maybe, but.
Also depends upon the size of the project and the type of project.
Sure.
Right. I think Joanne, I was talking to you in particular, and you talked about this as well. About, if we were to, let's say we were to recommend the Herman plan, which is single family homes, and it's a section of the property. It's about a third of the property, right? That property has the potential to maximize the power supply for that property. It would not be able to handle
Or
more and potentially what additional infrastructure may be needed for things like heat pumps. Now, being someone who has heat pumps and has 2 electric cars, and I heat primarily with heat pumps. I know what my service is, but obviously when you multiply that by 50, it's an interesting question. So as you were saying, Cindy, is we can't say 100%. In a perfect world, we'd wave a magic wand and everything would be free. But we can't. I said to you, like homes, for instance, if you have an electric car, you're probably charging at home. And if we can ensure that the infrastructure for the charger is there, we run an extra 220 line outside on some of these units for the homeowner to decide, this is how I want to, I'm going to go electric. That means that we don't cause that person that extra work down the road too. Because if we're doing it en masse.
But again, if there's enough power available on the site, not just in each individual home.
Right.
But on the main poles out here, we're gonna have to upgrade that to get the amount of power that's required.
It's a matter of collaboration. We could get businesses to participate in this.
Oh, if the businesses want to kick in money, that'd be.
That's neat. If we can get a collaboration of businesses to be part of the infrastructure project, because it's workforce housing. And, it benefits them, benefits the town, it benefits.
And we've had discussions about,
If businesses wanted to kick in and put you could ask all the businesses in town looking for employees.
yes,
You paid $2 million to get the water and sewer up there,
if they want to go 2 million in, yeah, we'll take them up on the offer.
we'd take them.
I think that
Yeah.
there's ways to look at, we've talked about businesses specifically that are looking for
Right.
a number of units. Now, Stratton obviously was on the list at one point.
Mhm.
They've kind of taken themselves out of the equation a little bit with the purchases that they've made,
Yep.
right? So that's not necessarily a player. Orvis, I would be willing to bet that they're not going to be in the position to do anything like that simply because they are downsizing again. RK Miles obviously did their own thing. Obviously, 3 is not enough for what they probably need.
Equinox.
The
Equinox
hotels.
Hotel,
The
Taconic
hotels.
Hotel.
Yeah.
Like, there could be enough potential capital there to say, you know, we give for a certain donation or investment in the project, you know, we get X amount of preferential units or houses or whatever, like,
Yeah, and the
Something.
VHFA, which has a program that has these businesses coming together in this collaboration. And we could look into
Yeah.
forming one of those.
There's an incentive for the hotels as well, because a lot of the hotels locally give housing to their employees within the hotel. So they're losing rooms they could potentially be renting out. So they could do the math and say, you know, we have this, how many rooms we're giving to employees, we could give those to customers and we'd make this much money, so we could afford to donate this much money to this project.
Yeah,
As you're
and they
talking-
were interested in the, I'm sorry, they were also interested in the, what do you call it? The,
thermal energy network,
yeah.
Yeah.
They were very interested in that as well.
the thermal energy
thermal-
network.
Have come up with it. Yeah, they were interested in that as well. So they're open to getting these housings, you know, housing done for their own employees in various ways.
Right.
And none of the proposals actually, I didn't see, actually gave a number, a dollar amount for the property. In other words, there was not a proposal I saw that said, we're going to offer you 5 million for the property and the story. I'm just wondering if possibly we try to approach the 3 people and maybe maybe open up again to see if someone's interested in buying a portion or all of it. And because we are going to be, if we do anything up there, it's a year to 2 out before we put a shovel in the ground up there. So maybe the town might be better off selling a portion of it, taking that money and purchasing a piece of property that is Act 250 exempt and is water and sewer that you could start tomorrow on.
What piece of property would that be?
We'd have to look at it, but I'm just.
A few, I'm just, you know, wonder if you had any in mind.
I would back up and just say, I'm firm in construction, they didn't give money up front, but in their proposal, they said this is what we're gonna give for each home sold to the town of Manchester.
Yes,
An integrated Manchester Housing Initiative first had said, here's our proposal saying that we're gonna give this much money up front. Now they're talking about doing it as more of a lease agreement, which would change that original proposal, as we know, but they're
Well, of
talking
course,
about
when it's
paying
sold.
for it in some ways, in different ways, but there's definitely money coming in. But I understand what you're
well,
saying,
there's money coming in, but not
not right off the bat.
right as they sell them, which makes sense, but
But in nickels and dimes of town, we don't see the money in one big chunk we can spend on something. We have to wait for it to build up. It's in the coffers, and that's not doing us any favors. So as we build them one at a time, it's gonna be, say, it's a lot slower for us to be able to purchase another piece of property. So it's better if you want, we develop, but we sell the whole piece of property. The problem that with that is we're gonna have someone who's gonna come in and say, well, this is my property now. I'm gonna build whatever I want on it. And then we have no control over it. Whereas if we retain control of the property, we can say what happens with it. And we use our 20% of that land for the Act 250 that we had to do when we swapped for the rec park.
what would you say, swap for the rec?
No, it's 6 acres that is part of the conservation easement.
That's
Yeah.
We have to have that somewhere.
Well, it's actually a specific piece.
Right now, it's a specific.
We technically could move it. We've already done it once, but I think if I remember right, it's in the least, I don't want to say the least desirable, but it's like tucked off in the corner, in the far south corner of the property.
Southeast corner, I think.
All right, so we've talked about quite a few different things. just bringing up some of the points that I remember as I've discussed them with each of you individually. Cindy, you mentioned a more specific ask or a more specific criteria as what we're actually looking to, as a town, accomplish.
Well, I was recapping what I was hearing, and also I think that it would also help if the select board, when they're looking at the proposal we give, if we had a list of things that we also could say, like, we want this to be mixed use, we want this to be a certain percent is, we actually really spell it out. We want this percentage to be workforce, housing, that kind of, and because I believe it was been said in the conversations that, some criteria needs to be laid out. More specific directions from the town. Because, it, in order to have a project go the way you want it, you should give it some good direction from the beginning.
I mean, what was I thought the direction for this board, unless I'm mistaken, was it housing as a whole, or was it workforce housing? I thought it was workforce.
Housing as a whole, with a particular emphasis on affordable housing.
Workforce housing.
Affordable, no, affordable house.
Yeah.
But, and affordable, that's a broad range. It could be from $200,000 to $800,000. You got houses down the road that are supposed to be affordable for $600,000-700,000. It's not affordable, and
Depends on who buys it.
Depends on.
depends on who buys it.
So, okay. So I think we've discussed the most about the integrated Manchester plan and the Herman plan. The DEW plan seems to be, because of its vagueness, appears to be, well, they're a fantastic company that has developed throughout New England. They didn't come with more than a cover letter, I think, which is not beneficial for us in our process. And by the way, the stuff that we received wasn't intended for the Housing Task Force. It was meant to be applied directly to the select board. The select board asked the Housing Task Force to review them. For the other two plans, the other question, of course, is do they meet the criteria, which we haven't completely set, right? Because we don't know what we need. Well, I shouldn't say that. We know what we need. We know what our statistics are telling us, that we need 200 homes over the next, right? Of varying amounts, sizes, and shapes. Prices. And prices. Personally, this is my own take. I think that I have seen the success of projects throughout Vermont and the rest of the New England area, as to not compare us against like Oklahoma, somewhere in the middle of the country, that using a mixed income strategy is usually the most successful in having a successful project. Now, whether that means I'm just gonna go out on a limb here and say, if we went to integrated Manchester and Brent Herman and said, okay, if this was a part of this strategy was to work together, and here's a parcel for Brent, and here's a parcel, as part of the strategy that they discussed, could that be an option? I think the other thing that we could also say to Brent, the Herman plan is, I think you were the one who said this in particular, both of you, sorry, that's not like,
All right.
both of you, was to start in a smaller scale. So depending upon where the Herman's property was, let's say it was the most accessible to water and sewer that could be brought in from
And his picture didn't show that, but.
Yeah, but let's
yeah, let's say it was.
let's say it was, and let's say it was, further down Airport Road. Down towards the more, well, I say down, because that's the way the map is oriented. But closer towards Richville, where there's that sliver of property. Where you could be looking at more of a single family structure. You have less distance to go if sharing the utilities doesn't work for with the Levises. It removes the potential barriers of building on, at least for now, on the airstrip, right? But that also paces it so that we could then say, okay, we want you to start here, but as part of a strategy working with someone else. And then we could look at how we're going to phase this in, because if I remember correctly, Integrated Manchester also stated that the first project that would get off the ground would be, well, I'm going to use the W word, workforce housing, right? As a priority.
It's a priority.
So. And I'm not, now that it's 6:15, I don't want to rush things along, but at the same time, I don't want to play devil's advocate, but I want to ask, are there other options that we still need to discuss?
Again, I think for getting something started sooner, my thought would be to possibly sell off a portion of that property and purchase a piece of property where we could get started right away, where it's Act 250 exempt. Because I mean, we're 2 years out, year and a half, 2 years out before we get Act 250, get something going. 12 months, 18 months out before we start anything. If we sold a portion of it and I got an idea which portion, but we'll talk about it, but that might be the most reasonable way to get money to get started on, get a piece of property, and get started on the project.
Yeah, I asked those, if we suggested to go down that line or that road, it could take us a year to sell it too.
I could,
And therefore, if you've waited a year to sell it and you didn't start now with this, you're further down the road anyways.
what if you give me a month?
What?
How about if you give me a month? But whatever,
I would ask the question, let's go back to let's talk about that for a little bit, because I don't necessarily disagree with that, because I did say that when we had our previous meetings, if there's a way to kind of break this up into smaller opportunities and scale it in a way that allows things to start happening sooner than later, could be a great thing. But when you say sell a portion of that, like, are you thinking of a 20-acre portion or?
Maybe 20, 15, 20, 10, 15, 20.
So what, just to understand, what do we think we could get for 20 to 15 acres of land over there?
50,000 an acre, probably, something in that area. So you're looking at,
Without
the
infrastructure?
oh, no, without you, no.
That's the whole
Oh, yeah,
thing.
you're right,
You don't have any infrastructure.
right.
And the reason I'm asking that question is like, if we only raise $200,000 from the sale of that land, $500,000, we're not gonna be able to buy another piece of property in town to do what we would like to see happen, which is.
Give me a month or 2 weeks.
But then we have no control over what they build, right?
That is correct. If you did sell it, you would have no control over 15 acres of it.
We have zoning bylaws.
I was gonna say,
for a
the town
reason.
always has control of that.
I think if there's a clear path to get us housing sooner that is more affordable because of access to infrastructure. I mean, on paper, a 60-acre parcel, in our town is very appealing. Until you start peeling back the layers of the onion and say, okay, does it have adequate water? Probably. Does it have sewer? We know the answer is no. Is it under Act 250? Yes, it is. How quickly can we start building on it because of all those things? We already know, depending upon who we go with, and then the process, we're looking 2 to 4 years out. When I think I said to a couple of you on the conversations that, you know, every month that we don't have something moving forward, we have more and more people who are up against the wall, forcing themselves out of our communities, out of our community.
How about how much land do we have at the town hall here?
Great question.
I mean, how,
While you're answering that question, he's looking it up, right? Are you?
Yeah.
I was gonna just say that Integrated Manchester did kind of give a timeline based on certain key issues or things hitting marks, but that they could potentially start construction as early as spring of 2027, which again, is 2 years from now, they'd start construction. We wouldn't have places people could reside into probably for another 18 months or more. So we're talking at least 3.5 years
still,
minimum.
But if we have all these issues with these properties, then why do we get all these proposals? You know, I mean, if we were gung ho about doing it and getting these properties developed before. So really, we should keep moving forward. I think it's going to take a long time to get the money back from each property. 18,000, I think, was what Herman's was going to give us for each house.
they all had amounts on the house.
I think it was like 18,000. So and that adds up faster than selling an acre for 30, because it's your quarter acre or half acre lot.
100%.
So we'd make more money in the long term and we could buy a piece of property in town for our next project. The street property would be great. And that's not going to go for cheap. So, and that's right there on sewer. So, we could just move forward with these. I know the first proposal gave us, they wanted to do hands-off, full control, and they'll take care of everything. That makes me nervous. The second proposal, the Karachi proposal, it had apartments, it had workforce housing, it had high-end housing. It had a bit of everything, and that it made a lot of sense. But the square footage price on that plan was too high. The Herman proposal had the best price on square footage,
The only thing
but there was a lot of corners cut.
on the Croce one, though, I think that they included, I don't know for a fact, but I'm assuming they included infrastructure to get out there. So again, it's not a fair compare. It is fair or not. The square footage on the building price is one thing, but infrastructure, if you're talking $150,000 or $200,000 to run a line across the airport strip, or your $2 or $2+ million running up the airport road, that's a big number. We need to divide it out, right? So, and I'm sure that's nobody's going to just give that up. I mean, they're not going to spend $2 million and
Exactly. It's
say the heck with it.
got to come from somewhere. So
Right. And where it's going to come from is the sale price of the house.
I'm agreeing with Jonathan. I think a combined venture between our two local builders would be a better option for the town than having an outside developer come in and just hands off, do what they want to do.
Well,
I
and
agree with that.
And I think the other piece, and I think it's really important to know, is that this has to be handled with as much cooperation as possible. And I know that many feel that working with the town of Manchester is incredibly difficult. For whatever reason, sorry, Tim, not you in particular, but just like people get the sense, like, I don't want to build here because it's hard. I don't want to do this because it's too expensive. I don't want to do Y because of this. And they'll go and they'll build in Sunderland, or they'll build in Sunderland or in Arlington or somewhere else. But we also, for the same reason, Cindy, you're having the discussion right now, or brought up the discussion that we weren't descriptive enough in the RFP for what we wanted, was something that we tend to do as the town, right?
Yeah.
So this is a place where we collectively have to drive the train a bit more and be willing to meet people and not just let we are going to, in any of these plans we've discussed so far, is that we are going to be we have the property. The property is the town of Manchester. We're going to be leasing it or to some, parceling it off over time, whatever it is. That's how this is going to happen. So the town has a vested interest in it from day one to make sure that it doesn't become a Green Mountain Estates where we spend 20 years in litigation determining how we're going to buy the road. Right? So, this is crazy. I'm actually looking at WebGS right now, and it's not actually showing me the acreage. I can tell you that the building square footage total encompasses roughly just under 110,000 square feet.
What's an acre? 44, 40,
43.
43?
560.
So just ball, you think we've got 4 acres here, 5 acres here? I don't know.
8.78.
8.7.
You're getting on a WebGIS?
It doesn't say.
It doesn't
Just
really-
do it in the head. I was gonna do the measurement tool, but
So 8.7, so I guess the question is, as a start, do you think the town would consider putting a few houses out that way, down that way? I don't know. We already own it, the water and sewer's here. It's just an idea.
I,
I mean, if they're on town sewer, I think that because right now they're on, I think they're on their own sewer now, correct?
right here?
Yes.
Yeah, we didn't, I don't think we tied into
We
it.
did not type, but, and I'm not sure, but I don't know if the sewer's out in that swale area out there, if that's where it is, but whatever. If it got on town sewer and you could put 8 or 10 houses right around here, that's a start. Again, you could start tomorrow. No Act 250, just
So where is this land? Like, can you
Right here.
vision it? Like,
between here and the fire department,
So,
north. That's, again, it's just an idea.
so roughly, so the road frontage of the property here is 480 feet. So from the edge of Homer Road, right? Yeah, Homer Road, to just past our entrance, so adjacent to the synagogue, it's roughly 480 feet, and it's between 800 to 890 feet deep. So I mean, the rough math, this is what we're doing, 480 times, I say, just meet in the middle, 850 is 408,000 square feet. 408.
He already gave us the acreage.
He's doing a smaller portion.
Yeah, 9.2 roughly. So in the 8 to 9 acres. So I mean, there's a significant portion just right here in the front of the property. I think I don't want to get down this road because we're a housing task force, but there's definitely some discussion about this building that we're in right now, which was built, what, 60 years ago? It is under a MERP grant right now, which, as I'm not heard if we've been paid back on the reimbursement for the insulation yet from the government. So that's to be seen, right? A little scary, given our climate right now. So, this building, oh, and by the way, we've already discussed thermal energy networks here, right? So there's a potential for expansion of that technology in this area.
Yeah.
We're dealing it with our schools right now with deferred maintenance.
There's somebody waiting in the waiting room, John.
Oh, it's Christina Young again. Thank you. We're dealing with our schools with deferred maintenance. That's why we're up against potentially building a brand new school, right? We hear this building is old. It has no insulation, right? Hopefully we can get some of that remedied, but this could be an opportunity for us to look at, well, if we don't have to go out and purchase another piece of property,
I like that.
we could use funds from a sale of a portion of the property towards investing in this property This is, I'm just throwing this out here. This is part of a strategy. This is part of a discussion. You know, we said we could accept one, we could accept all, or we could accept none, right?
Right.
I'm not, listen, you know, whether maybe the discussion then becomes, do we say to, integrate, thank you, integrated Manchester. They are the sole person on that property. And we look at redeveloping here for someone who has boots on the ground that wants to, you know, get started immediately building a single family home structure. I personally, I feel like it would need to be a mix, but we don't have to go down.
I like that idea.
Um,
And then they at least, they're giving us our opportunity to be part of the decision-making anyway, right?
Yeah.
So we would have some say in what gets built there. In addition to if we go ahead with the property here at the town hall.
So if I'm hearing everybody correct, so we're not necessarily wanting to give the whole 60 acres out to one group yet. We're talking about possibly dividing a portion of it and selling it. And then the other section could be potentially integrated Manchester and Herman developing those apps, or just integrated Manchester and then potentially looking at something for the town property here or something else.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, I just think that if we want to kind of talk about and I know there's lots of
just what if,
balls in
yeah.
there that we're talking about, but we want to kind of make decisions about what we want to recommend to the select board when it comes to the three proposals. Sounds like DEW is out. Is that correct?
That's what I was trying to get to earlier.
Sorry.
I mean, not to say they're a bad company.
No.
It's just, I think it doesn't
I think it's good.
address what we're, in my mind, what we're looking to do. But
Yes,
that's-
yeah, I'm totally cool with
Make a
that. So can we just all? you wanna do the
Yeah.
vote?
No,
A motion?
Are you making a
I'm
motion?
gonna make a motion that we're gonna take DEW out of the equation as we, for this project. Seconded.
Motion and seconded. Any discussion? We've discussed for the last hour.
I agree.
All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Okay. So DEW is out of contention for our recommendation. With the last few minutes before we head up to 7 o'clock, I know, Adam, you are on Zoom, and Paul, and I forget your last name, sir. Rosenberg, sorry. I had it this close, that you're here tonight. If there was anything that you would like to add about your proposal, you know, things that you've heard today that might help us make a decision in either way. And if you do, just please state your name and come up to the podium or come online. Adam might be.
Where's the microphone?
The microphone, it gets recorded.
It's not louder for in here, but for the folks at home and watching on DNet.
Hi, I'm Steve Rosenberg. I introduced myself on video last time, and I have just a couple of questions that I'm a little bit confused about that maybe it would be helpful to express my confusion. So as we stated in our proposal, and as I stated last time, Integrated Manchester has an exclusive relationship with the levies that goes for 4 years, okay? So I understand the desire for us to do some sort of joint proposal with Brent, which I'm not opposed to philosophically, but we nevertheless have a legal agreement with the levies that has to trump whatever else would happen. So I just want to put that out there so you all keep that in mind with the Levises. So you'll keep that in mind. And this idea that somehow it's going to be okay to go over the Levises property to bring in water and sewer when Integrated has an exclusive with them is a little bit problematic. So that's one issue I just want to raise, okay? The other issue I want to talk about is this whole difference between a land lease and a sale, okay? Whether you sell it to Brent, whether you sell it to DW, whether you sell it to someone from out of town, the town loses total control on a land lease, okay? There's no constraints that the town can put on a land lease that are governed, that are enforceable. That part of why we proposed a land lease was our operating assumption was that the town has things that it wants, okay? It doesn't want, for example, low-income tax credits to allow anyone from the state of Vermont to move to Manchester. You want those units to be for Manchester residents who are teachers, hotel workers, firemen, and everything else, fire people, excuse me, and everything else. So that for us, part of the whole point of a lease was to try to create that level of cooperation and control with the town. And I want to make sure in your deliberations, you understand that at the point at which you sell, whether it's a whole or a part thereof, you've totally lost control with what happens with the land. You cannot put constraints on a sale. So that's the second point I wanted to make. The third point I wanted to make has to do with timing. And I think that because Paul and I are the contiguous landowners on Airport Road, there are possibilities to expedite timing way faster than we had submitted in our proposal that Paul and I have just been exploring. And I want to leave those out there to simply say that from where we sit, there are significant possibilities for expediting timing, leveraging our relationship as the neighbor on 60 acres. So those are my comments.
I actually had a question, if you will,
That's what I'm here for.
at the completion of the 99, let's say it's a 99 year lease,
Right.
where does so a person who has purchased a property on, let's say, a home on this property, what happens to that deed after that 99-year lease is up?
Sure. So I'm going to digress a little bit to try to answer your question philosophically, John, and then get back to it. Okay. So this idea of long land leases is not atypical at all. The reason why it's typically a 99-year lease is the idea that it allows for 3 generations of financing on a 30-year note. Okay. At the point that that 4th generation, which is really the question you're asking, okay, any one of several things can happen. A town can choose to extend the lease for another 99 years. If you look, for example, the state of Hawaii, where we've done a fair amount of work with my firm, they generally have a lot of lease land, and they actually have a policy that says the leases must be extended. Okay, so you have the option to basically extend the lease. You have the option to terminate the lease. You have the option to purchase whatever the remainder interest would be. And when this will come up will be in the financing. I'm being a nerd, I'm sorry. Will come up in the financing issue in that 3rd generation. So at the point at which that 3rd generation wants to go for financing, the lender is going to want some assurance from the town 90 years from now about what the town's intent would be at that juncture. But the town has many choices, and it's however the town wants to do it at that point. Legally, it reverts to the town. So the town can decide whether they want to exercise that reversion, whether they want to continue the lease. It's up to you all, or not to anyone in this room. It's up to subsequent generations of you.
My kids might be here.
Who knows?
As an example, all of the state-owned airports can lease all the land partners. And they're only 20 years.
These are very typical. This is what you guys, to be honest, what you guys proposed in your RFP was atypical. Okay. And I think that I heard you or someone talk about how perhaps you should have given more thought to the RFP than you did. And I would second that motion strongly, right? I don't think anyone really wants to simply give these 60 acres to a developer that can propose X, but once they have it, they can do Y. You have absolutely no constraints. You're depending upon the good faith and fair dealing of a developer that's not legally bound to anything they put in the RFP. They're bound to try it. They're not bound to implement it. And I want to make it clear that that's the difference. Great.
That was, thank you. I appreciate that.
Very helpful.
Anything else before I sit down?
I think that's it. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Okay.
Sure.
Where Kish?
Where to?
More public comment before? No.
Well, so the question is whether we should ask for more public comment, and this came up at the second meeting of the proposals. And while I think it's important that we do have public comment and that we have a discussion about this, I also understand that we've been having a discussion for 40 years here in Manchester. And we're using, and I've said this over and over again, the playbook from 40 years ago that was written by a group just like this of members of the zoning board, maybe? It was a different makeup, but essentially the same group as today, wrote a book that thick. You know, Crayola crayoned the cover and typed it out on a typewriter. But the story and the numbers and the percentages and the division of 40 years ago is the exact same thing that we're having the discussion on today. Now, there have been, you know, glacially slow progress in some areas, but there has not been an opportunity of the potential magnitude of anywhere up to 60 acres with town involvement or connection through a land lease or anything like that. There hasn't been anything like that I'm aware of. And certainly never finished, right? So I think what I'm hearing is we already made the determination, this is the easy part. We made the determination that we're not going to move forward with recommending DEW. I think what would be beneficial in its final, as like a final attempt to make sure we hear from as many people as possible is we need to engage, and I'm trying to,
Well,
yeah,
can I stop you for a second?
yeah,
You said we've been talking for 40 years about this same
yeah.
thing. I think we've talked about it and talking about more people. I don't know what we're gonna get out of it.
think we need-
I would like to make it a proposal that we accept the, Paul's proposal. And with Herman as, Paul is the lead and both of them together working jointly together on this. And we just start moving forward with it because I don't think we're gonna get, much further otherwise. It's gonna stall out.
Yeah.
I don't want to see us lose momentum.
Well, so I'm going to jump in too. So if we do the combination of both of them, from what,
Paul's the lead.
with Paul's group as lead, what I'm understanding from what Steve just said is if we bring in Herman's group and we sell that property, are you selling the property to Herman? We're going to still control what's, I'm just trying to get my head around
I would,
combining the two. The combining,
I would say probably sell a portion of the property. To come up with some money to try to either buy more property or start another project.
no, what I was just trying to think is I was just asking as if Leon, you were saying combine the two. I was just trying to
Right.
figure out what happens with the land of how Herman would be working with.
I guess I take a different approach. I'm not necessarily in favor of forcing or encouraging one to work with another. I mean, that's not, I mean, if that was the case, they would have done that on their own.
Exactly. That's where I'm struggling with.
Unless they want to.
Well, I mean, that's a
But
different
again,
story. They can propose that, but that's
They didn't
not,
propose
that's not
that,
what
but
was proposed.
it's just another,
Well, I think the piece of property that's in the front, down Airport Road where the power lines cut through, there's a piece of property there. That would be an ideal spot for Herman to build some of their houses, affordable homes. And then, Paul could work further up the hill and on the main part of the land. And that would be, because then we could see how they both, because it's in stages anyway. So we can see how the Herman stage goes, how the,
how about at our next meeting, we invite the two of them back again, we can talk about something like that? I mean, again, it's just, it'd be nice to have the two players meet with us, talk to us, get the questions, get their answers. Maybe neither one of them want to do it. I don't know.
Up with some.
So one other thing, I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page here too. We are making a recommendation to the select board and ultimately the select board will decide.
Yeah.
So while we can come up with this beautiful laid out plan to make this all, kumbaya together, it could come to the select board and the select board, which I am a member of, could say, no, that's not what we want to do. I would hope that we as a housing task force, as part of the recommendation, would be able to back it up with enough information, why, how, this is a possibility, this is why we're doing what we're doing, so that it gives the peace of mind to the select board as a whole that we've done our due diligence, we've listened, we've talked, we've culminated everyone's opinions from different perspectives, different avenues, and said, this is a way for us to collaborate together. I agree with you saying you can't force someone to work with someone. I like the idea that, further discussion collaboratively made between the two parties may be a good place. I don't expect them to make any business deals in front of us, no. But, Mr. Rosenberg,
I'm not a member of the Vermont Bar, but I would suggest that you get an opinion from council of what the town's obligation under a procurement is, and whether the town is permitted, having provided a procurement for X, to then proceed to let a contract for Y that has no relationship to X. Again, I'm not a member of the Vermont Bar. There are other states in which you could not do that. That once you have issued a procurement, you're bound by the procurement process, that you might be able to issue a new procurement, but I think under this procurement, you may be bound. And I think that's a question you might inquire of council before you get too far in the discussion I just heard you having. Because I don't know whether you're allowed to do that or not, is what I'm saying. You issued a procurement for X, and you then go to the select board. The select boards have a lot of power in Vermont. Can this housing task force, as a legal subcommittee of the select board, go to the select board and say, well, we know select board, you issued a procurement for X, but we as a legal subcommittee want to recommend Y. I don't know if that's in your authority, it's over my pay grade, but I want to raise the question.
I hear you. I'm not going to speak either
I
direction.
don't know.
I think
I'm just raising the question.
The conversation would not necessarily be that, I mean, because we could say yes or no. We don't want to recommend any of the proposals.
Right.
Now, that's not against the procurement.
That's correct.
Yeah.
You could do that. The question I'm raising is whether I heard you going down the street. And the reason I stood up is to say, I think before you go down that street, you should get legal advice whether you can go down that street or not. Because I heard where you were, I don't object to where you were going. I'm formalist. You can't tell by my style, not by my dress.
Suspenders, yeah.
I said, not by my dress, but by my style. You can tell I'm formalist. So I'm being a formalist and simply raising the question that may be more prudent than where I heard you go. That's all I'm saying.
Frank, do you want to? Just say your name, sorry, Frank.
Frank Fropa. I think it was integrated Manchester plan set out a timeline. And that really does have to be done. You have to do a lot of permitting and all of that. You can't do that piecemeal, breaking it up 3 different sections, everybody else having to go and do their own presentation on that. Same thing with infrastructure. I don't think you want to break the property up, have one group doing something, and then another group coming in, have to do their permitting and everything, but then to try to integrate another whole separate infrastructure with the other one. That's not a very efficient way of doing anything. So it really does seem to me like the select board to accept anything needs something that is more cohesive, a plan that will phase in different parts of it. And also, well, you have, and a number of you mentioned that you really do need an integrated community. For affordable housing, you also need marketplace housing throughout the whole thing to make the entire project affordable and nice. But so you're going to need marketplace housing also. So you're going to need a bigger plan rather than trying to break things up into different sections with no integrated plan at all. I can't imagine that the select board would want to accept something that isn't a little more coordinated. So I would hope that you would go with a coordinated plan that incorporates all of those different things, the affordable housing, marketplace, and apartment buildings. It just seems to me like that would be a better plan to present to the select board.
Thank you, Frank. Thanks. Carl?
Carl Buckhold. I agree with Frank. From a legal point of view, I have no idea what the parameters are, but you could simply reject all the proposals. And we've been talking as an energy committee about the fact that you folks have literally an impossible task because you don't have anything defined. You don't have a number of dwellings defined. You don't have what percentage affordable defined. You have nothing defined. So my suggestion is that you don't start from scratch. You got a lot of material you got already in front of you, but you get some guidance from the select board about numbers and percentage of affordable housing. And you work with energy committee on the things that we're expert on in terms of energy, with legal from their perspective. We don't have a conservation commission, but they could deal with things about the habitat and floodplains and things like that. And then you form a rubric, you create a rubric of each category, and you give points based on how good they are. So for example, for me, the houses are going to be heated with propane, they get 0 points, maybe even negative. If they're going to be, heated with air source heat pumps, okay, you get 30 points. Ground source heat pumps, you get 70 points. Ground source network together, you get 100 points. So you have a rubric which can objectively help you decide what's the better proposal. And it's not your fault. It's not the people who put proposals forward. There wasn't enough guideline for them. Anyway, my 2 cents.
Great, Carl. And I did review the rubric, the baseline rubric that was put out. I didn't bring it up today simply because it was still a work in progress. And it focused mainly on the energy side, right? It wasn't the additional items. Second, Adam, you have your hand up?
Hi there. Yes. I think I wanted to just say a couple of other comments to follow up with Steve Rosenberg in relationship to our proposal. During the presentation that we gave a couple weeks ago, I think the question was posed as to what our biggest hurdle was or biggest limitation moving forward. And it was discussed that because our proposal is really based on cooperation with the town and our ability to define our path forward in coordination and cooperation with the town, that getting to that level of agreement was the biggest hurdle. All of that said, the faster that our team is able to progress those discussions and move forward, then the faster we are able to get a shovel into the ground. The other comment that I wanted to make was about the discussion around getting investment back to the town. I also want to remind you of the proposal that we outlined and the various payment structures that would be coming into the town, both at the time of our planning approvals getting received, as well as the future sales of plats that would be broken out into the future sales of that full 60-acre parcel. The last kind of comment that I wanted to make, which was discussed during the meeting last week in the home ownership, 40 parcel home ownership program, was that they were affordable for a variety of reasons, but mainly because of the way in which they were constructed, being a low cost form of construction. It makes them affordable today. It does not necessarily mean that they will be affordable tomorrow. And it also could produce some long-term maintenance issues based on how they are produced and installed today. Our plan, really hit on short-term goals, midterm and long-term goals, a variety of residents that we would be serving, current Manchester community members, as well as touching on the infrastructure requirements to the site within plans and ideas of how we would be instilling those. So I think, again, our proposal did really cover a lot of the discussion and questions that I'm hearing tonight, and our approach of full cooperation with the town really, in my opinion, answers a lot of the questions that I am hearing asked this evening. So
Thank you. Okay, yeah, we're right up against our clock. I don't expect us to make a decision in the next 3 minutes. What more do we need right now to make, not right now, what do we need for our next meeting to help us make this decision?
From what I gathered from, I'm sorry, all of our inputs, is that we're looking to change what the town put out as a RFP proposal, which is what Steve is talking about, which is not a bad thing necessarily, but I think we need to, number one, like he suggested, we talk to the town council or whatever, saying, can we do this? Can we make this recommendation? If whatever that is, it's different from somebody taking over the entire 60-acre parcel and doing something with it, us asking that integrated mansion to work with Herman, or that we're going to take a 20-acre parcel and subdivide it off, and that's going to be sold, and then we're going to use the other 40 acres for this project. So
Also, like, how much we're bound to him, for this, since he has the rights to the, didn't you say you had the rights to the sewer?
No, we have the rights to Levis's. We have the rights to the Levis's sewer.
I want to know how much.
You're bound.
We're bound.
You're bound. The Levis's are bound, so you're bound.
Right.
The Levis's are bound, so you're bound. So IMHI has recourse against the Levis's. We have recourse against the town if you try to tortiously interfere in our relationship with the Levis's, which we have disclosed to you. Did I answer your question?
It does. It pretty much tells me we have one choice.
I didn't say that.
You did. You did.
Was there something else, or was that what you?
I was just going to follow up to say, I'm not saying that the select board can't do whatever they want in terms of X or Y. The question I'm raising is whether this task force has the authority to do that or not. The select board can do whatever it wants, right? The question I'm raising is, I don't know what the authority of this task force is and whether you're allowed to put a procurement out for X and then recommend Y.
Let me back up. We didn't put out the select board.
Right, but whether you can recommend, I don't know. It's all rather, so I think these are open meetings. I think these are public comment meetings. I think these are minuted meetings. Part of why we submitted the MOU with the Levis's was to put it on the public record, because I think, going back to the question you just raised about tortious interference, that's on the public record at this point, and we put it on the public record.
John, I guess, what is the holdup for us to kind of decide tonight? I mean, what are we gonna get? I mean, would we not be prepared to make a decision tonight?
If, given what we just heard, and we wanted to divert from the original proposal in some manner, other than say yea or nay, here's the proposal we recommend, or we're not we don't recommend any proposals, et cetera. If we were going to go beyond that and redefining it in some manner, that's a holdup. If we are willing to move forward with one proposal, then we don't have a hold.
I think if you're trying to combine, I go back to what several people have said, if we're trying to combine two proposals, we're muddying the water. Making it
can't.
you're just making two people like work
Well,
together.
plus what he just said.
Well, never mind what, that whole piece.
That is
Just, I know that's very important, but what I'm just saying is beyond what he just said, prior to that, we were all saying, pushing two people together to work, it just.
I mean, they could have formed it at the time of their proposal. The reality is we have three proposals. I don't, I mean, if we're tasked to kind of make a recommendation on, or no recommendation on the three, then I don't see what we're gonna get by trying to muddy the waters, as Joanne says, and create a new proposal that merges a couple of contractors.
The reason I proposed that, and I'll be clear, is because the Herman proposal had a more affordable home than the Caraccio proposal. And so we would get some homes in that mix that would be at a lower price point. And that's going to give us, more variety to people we want to serve.
I'm not so sure that I agree, because I don't know that I saw numbers tied to the integrated home prices. I mean, we know what the total number was, but I don't know that we had specific numbers the way Frank gave us. I mean, so I'm not so sure I agree with that. I get back to the fact that I don't see why we could not come up with a decision tonight on it and to push it forward. That's just me.
The only way that we're gonna do that is to accept one of the proposals.
Or accept none.
Or accept none, exactly.
Well, do we want to take a vote?
Well, we need
Someone
to.
has to make a
Someone has a
motion.
motion.
Well,
If we talk to council first to see what options we do have. And. Cause I still have a few questions.
On one of these proposals as the sole.
That's fine. And then it
proposal.
doesn't have to be zero.
Right.
But I think, getting to the purchase or the sale of the property, that was part of the RFP. I mean, if you look at the RFP, there is one of the highlights, a proposal to purchase or enter a long-term lease, as these folks have done. So that was part of the RFP that went out. That was not presented by anybody to purchase the land outright.
But again, that because it wasn't out that way there when the RFPs were due.
It's part of the operation.
Nobody presented that.
That's correct.
So it actually would not be fair to, unless they sent out another RFP.
Or we just can't, or we say we don't like any of the proposals and we
Right,
go back
because,
to square one.
because I think he's got a point, because you really couldn't sell off a piece of property because that wasn't part of, the deal was here, there was three
That's right,
people
right.
there was three people that came in at the due date.
Exactly.
And it wouldn't be fair to offer it to one person. If that was the case, probably what they should do is come up with we can come up with an idea for them. We can deny them all or not and say, we have this idea. I don't know. I'm just.
If somebody wants to make a motion, I'll vote on whatever.
To deny all three for now.
Doesn't matter.
Make a
We have to-
motion.
We only
We're all-
motion, any
a
motion
lot
for
of-
anything. Make our minds up.
Have to make a decision to deny or accept anything tonight, I don't believe. I think we can say we're going to go look into what legal counsel about whether or not we can even make a second recommendation. And if we can, great. If they say no, then I think that we come back together and say, well, that
Okay.
was decided, and then we vote decline all
Or pick one.
or pick one.
Agree.
As much
In
as.
the meantime, at the next select board meeting, you can ask about building houses.
Well, that's tomorrow.
Tomorrow, there you go.
What is
We'll start houses
for an answer,
next week.
recommendation?
Well,
August 30th, was that the day we?
no, that's the date that I said, that I feel like we owe it to the people who put in the proposals, which have now been aged, ended what, May 1st, I think it was-ish. So June, July, I mean, we're 60, 90 days in by the time we're done here. I also I don't want to make the wrong decision, but at the same time, I don't want to delay because we'll always find something. You have to have the good faith that the people who put in proposals are doing it for good, just cause. They have the best intents for the community in mind, and we should honor that because we asked for it. So at this point, I'm hearing that we need to seek counsel on the question at hand. But I don't,
Just so I'm clear, so what is the question at hand?
whether we as a task force can go outside the RFP and make a second type of recommendation.
Why don't you just go to the select board and ask them?
Who's going to send it to? I mean, I'll go to the.
That's fine, but I think that, I mean, you're talking about going to the select board versus council.
I
would go to council.
Well, I'm going to, first thing tomorrow, I'm going to bring it up. And we have a select board meeting tomorrow night. Ultimately, it's going to go back to council. I don't see any way that it's not.
But again, I guess, we're just an advisory board.
We are just an advisory board.
So I mean, I guess we're just giving them advice. They're making the decision. That's attorney, that's attorney. I mean, we're just giving advice. If we say we would like to try to do it this way, it's up to them. Then, and then they could make the decision. Do we need to put out another RFP? What do we need to
Or
do?
do we have to go to council?
Or-
Do we even want to entertain council on this or even consider it?
Given that this is what, the fourth iteration of the housing task force, I would like to say that we make it past our first year anniversary.
Happy anniversary.
But at the same time, we need to make decisions. So I'm going to bring the question to the select board and management tomorrow. But I would like to look at if everyone can just, I did not put down an expected return for a next meeting. Our next scheduled meeting would be on the 14th,
Of August.
Thursday, August 14th. Is that okay?
I won't be here.
That's right, you're,
But if there is any votes, there's a vote to accept the Ferrocchio plan, I'm gonna vote yes for that one. So you guys can just have my vote now.
doesn't work.
That's why I like it.
When are you back? Are you back? What's the week?
Well, I think it was
21?
the plan that had apartments, houses.
No, when are you back?
So when am I back? I won't be back till around the time school starts.
Oh,
Yeah, we don't want to wait the whole month for that. Would you be in a place where if it came to a vote, you'd be able to come on, at least on a phone call, Leon, for a few minutes for a vote?
Yeah, I can probably join you on a phone call, yeah.
All right, so is the 14th okay? Yes?
Yes.
Does that work with you?
No, I'm sorry, no.
same time, 5:30?
I have a meeting at
That's
5:30.
the one year it rotates, right?
Monday the 18th. I know it's not normally Monday, but we
I
do
am
Monday
out of
this time.
I'm out of town.
Oh, you're out of town? What about Monday the 11th?
I,
That's like next
next Monday.
week.
Yeah, but all we're waiting for is some,
The select board meeting.
right?
I'm okay with next Monday.
Yeah.
You'll be out of town, but
Monday today.
so 11.
I can do it.
I can do it.
Okay, and if this goes well, and we're able to move forward, then that would be the last of a string of what seems like many meetings on this.
5:30.
5:30 here.
Yep.
So our next meeting for the Housing Task Force will be Monday, August 11th. Oh, Planning Commission's that day.
Oh, those guys. I have to be on that one actually by video, so I can't do both by video.
Oh, that they would be in this room.
Can I just ask for a point of clarification, please?
Yeah,
Because I'm right there with John. Well,
Swantonati.
sorry.
Yeah, that's W.
Why are we not making a recommendation tonight?
Because there had been interest in the potential of,
I think we should.
I'm ready to vote too. I'm with Joanne. I
can
can,
whatever we vote, because I think, you know, you were talking about something we've been waiting years for.
Yep.
And now here we are, and we're trying to rush it through in 4 weeks with huge proposals for 68 parcel that an RFP was put out.
Right.
That did not define really truly, and it was given to us
Right.
and now we're,
Yeah.
so I'm sorry, I don't feel comfortable
I don't
voting on one of these proposals alone. Without, and the reason I'm asking to delay is because I feel like we need council to say, can we make a separate recommendation? I don't want to say we're going to make one and then find out we legally can't do that. And it could cause other issues. That's just where I
And I
stand.
just don't want to make a recommendation, possibly make the wrong decision.
our recommendation does not automatically assume that it's an adoption. It's a recommendation. as
I
you
know,
pointed
but
out.
I know it is, but as you know, it's.
You have to have a good conscience that we're making.
100% agree. And we should, and we should.
I need a little more time myself.
Go for the vote.
Okay.
Abstain. I can just already
We
say.
don't have to sign.
What about the 12th? We're back to finding another
Tuesday?
meeting.
Health is fine for me.
12th is fine for me.
Works great.
hold on.
Is there
Oh my
anything-
gosh, it does work.
Tuesday the 12th.
Tuesday, the 12th. Okay, so revising,
Right.
our next meeting is Tuesday, August 12th at 5:30.
Great. Okay.
And you're gonna hopefully have an answer from.
We will absolutely have an answer.
And
Five-
so
5:30,
the
not
answer-
6.
Question is, can we
5:30, not
split
6.
them? Is that the
Well,
case to split them?
The potential.
But the last three.
All right, motion,
Motion to close.
Second.
motion heard, seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
You hit end, it for me.
I was like.
We
I'm so soon.